Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today is all about the most important muscle and the most aesthetic muscle in the body, which is your glutes. The glutes have definitely become the most prized asset for females and for males all around the world in every single gym, because at the end of the day they're very aesthetic, they're very powerful, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people want a nice rounded bum. If you've been following me for a while, you know I have quite an obsession with the glutes, and not just because they're really aesthetic, and obviously I think they're the best muscle in the body, I think a lot of people do, but also for their performance and their strength, and they are meant to be the strongest muscle in the human body. So first things first, why are the glutes such an important muscle in the body? The disuse and neglect of your glutes, so this could be if you have an office job and if you're quite sedentary in terms of you're sat down quite a lot of the time, your glutes will actually atrophy, which is the opposite to hypertrophy, and they are kind of wasting away and losing their neural input. I have done a lot of research into the glutes. I'm reading up on it. I Stuart McGill, who has done a lot of research into kinesiology, and he's also an author, basically talks about glute amnesia, and the quote that I'm putting up on the screen for you is basically saying that if you do have weak glutes and they do atrophy, other muscles in your body are going to compensate for your weaker glutes. So for example, this could be on a squat or a deadlift, and your back suddenly takes over because your glutes aren't strong enough for the exercise. Obviously this is something that you want to avoid in terms of getting a bad lower back. Now a lot of girls do message me and say they get really bad pain in their lower back and their lumbar spine from doing hip thrusts, and this is probably because your glutes may be a little bit weaker or you're completely in the wrong positioning. But on this video today, probably should have introduced it at the start, but I'm going to talk you through every single exercise that I do on my glute workout, and that's not something I usually do, so this is why this video is super important in terms of the glutes and how to do the exercises properly. In terms of the glute activation, I haven't actually shown you it today, but I push so hard on glute activation because you cannot expect to go into a lower body session, especially a glute workout, and expect your glutes to fire and recruit maximally, because it just won't happen. You can't just hip thrust and expect your glutes to fire maximally. In terms of the glute activation, I will give you some examples on the screen of what you can do. I always use a resistance band, also the link to my resistance bands are below. They are hard. There is one that is harder than the other in my Perfect Peach back. One is more resistant and one is less resistant, so obviously you can just take your pick depending on what exercise you're doing. I think with glute activation in general, if you have stubborn glutes and they are a stubborn muscle, it will help you during that session to have the mind muscle connection and actually squeeze your glutes when you're doing the exercises, so hopefully you'll pick up on some of those. I've also got a lot of glute activation on my Instagram posts. My little Instagram name is there, and you can have a look at those if you want to try them as well. But without further ado, your glute workout is next. It is an excellent workout. You've got your mixture of heavy loaded exercises, you've got bodyweight exercise, you've got banded exercises, you predominantly use a barbell and dumbbells, so give it a go, let me know what you think, and I will catch you after. Your first exercise is my favourite exercise, and this is the barbell hip thrust, and you're going to do 4 lots of 6 reps. Now, when you're doing this exercise, your shins should be vertical when your hips are fully extended, and this is at the top of the movement like you can see in the video. If your feet are too close, you'll feel it in your quads, and if you get too far away, you'll feel it more in your hamstrings. I also want you to push through your heels, so the transmission of force and tension from your foot through your leg and glute can be altered by where you're putting the tension on your foot. If you push with the ball of your feet, more tension will be placed on the front of your thigh, which is your quads. But if you focus on pushing more with your heels, more tension will go through the back of the thigh and into your glutes, which is exactly what you want on a barbell hip thrust. You've probably noticed throughout the whole video how I've kept my chin and my gaze. So with a hip thrust, you want to look straight forward and keep your gaze like this throughout the movement, and you'll find that your chin will naturally tuck, which keeps your ribs down. Therefore your chest won't pop up and you'll have a flat torso. This basically means you avoid hyperextending your spine where maybe you've had back pain before. If you keep this position, there should be no anterior pelvic tilt, and this is where your lumbar spine adopts more of a extended position at your hips. So the hips should be neutral or a slight posterior pelvic tilt. Your banded hip thrust combo is an absolute killer. Now, I always use bands in my session, and this is one of my Perfect Peach bands, which is actually the less resistant one. So here I'm doing 8 barbell hip thrusts with the band, 8 abductions, and this is where you push your thighs outwards. I then do a 5-second hold. I then get rid of the bar, finally kicking away the little pad, and I just do 8 bodyweight banded hip thrusts. The basic principle behind using a resistance band is that they pull the legs inward, and this means that you have to use your upper glute max and your glute medius to keep the legs out. This is why I feel an unbelievable burn when doing knee banded exercises. Your third exercise is dumbbell step ups, and you're going to do 4 lots of 8 reps per leg, but I'm just showing you my right leg here. Now, with the dumbbell step up, you can do this without the dumbbells if you are struggling a little bit, but it's completely up to you. When you're actually doing the step up, make sure you're driving through your heel and hinge at your hips to maximally activate your glutes. If you're not using dumbbells, you can reach your arms out in front of you to have a little bit more stabilization. Okay, this is your only superset in the glute workout, and you're doing it 3 times. A superset is where you do 2 exercises continuously and without any rest in between. So you're starting off with sumo squats. Now, with the sumo squat, you want a wider stance than you would a normal squat, and you want to turn your feet slightly out, as you can see I'm doing on the video. With a sumo squat, that is the difference in terms of a conventional squat, and it will hit your glutes much more because of this positioning. I want you to sit back into the squat, come up and squeeze your glutes, but don't squeeze them so you are arching your lumbar spine, which is the lower region of your spine. Once your thighs are parallel to the floor, exhale and then push your body back up through your heels. Again, I don't want your heel to lose contact with the floor, and then keep the knees parallel with the toes and keep your whole back in neutral throughout the entire movement. As this is a superset, we have gone straight into the Romanian deadlifts. Now, deadlifts are typically regarded as the best movement for the posterior chain, and this does include your glutes and your hamstrings. Bending the knees a little bit less, so what an RDL actually requires, encourages more posterior activation. But the main problem is that RDLs generally are a little more technical than the conventional deadlift that you might be doing, and do require more flexibility in the hamstrings and more mobility at the hip joint. What I want you to do is pivot at the hip rather than your lower back. So when you lower the bar, the back and the pelvis should remain still, but the movement comes from the hips. This way you wind up the glutes as you lower to stabilize the pelvis, and then stand up using the power of your hamstrings. Your final exercise before moving on to the finisher are 45-degree hypers. Now, you have 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps. You are going for a high rep range just because this is a bodyweight exercise and more of a finisher. So what I want you to do is turn your feet out to 45 degrees, hence the name. Relax your spine and actively round your back. So you want to hold this rounded position that I'm showing in the video throughout the whole movement. Finally, squeeze your glutes and thrust into the pad. You need to thrust into the pad as hard as possible and subconsciously squeeze your glutes. I do get asked all the time why I do glute finishers after my workouts, and I think it's pretty straightforward because the pump and the burn you feel after the finisher is unbelievable. And as you can see from this workout, I always start with heavy loaded work. I'll do hip thrusts, squats, Bulgarian split squats, lunges, and then I will always finish with something that has my glutes screaming. The hard burn you're going to feel from the glute finishes is due to the high rep ranges of the exercises. You might have heard them being referred to as pumpers before, which was coined by Brett Contreras, who gives us all this wonderful glute research with the aim of overloading the metabolic stress pathway. Basically, that massive burn feeling that you'll get in your glutes and when they've ballooned is when your glutes are pumped with metabolites. I think this finisher is pretty self-explanatory. You've got knee banded glute bridges where you'll do 20 reps, and then you'll go into knee banded abductions and then finish on glute clams. So what I want you to note for the glute bridges is I'm still keeping my
chin tucked and essentially my gaze forward, and always pushing through my heels. So you'll notice sometimes that I don't even keep the balls of my feet on the floor. I'm always just pushing through my heels. Same with the abduction, exact same position. With the glute clams, I am using one of my resistance bands, but don't feel like you have to, because this movement is very hard once you've just done that whole glute workout. But all you're doing is putting the band above your knees and doing as many reps as possible.
Okay, I really hope you enjoyed that workout, and obviously me speaking through all the exercises with you. It is a fantastic workout. Do give it a go. Let me know if you try it. Drop a comment below if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask. Direct message me on Instagram, whatever you want to do. And I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!